Look, I'd like to congratulate the government on its commitment to prioritising cybersecurity initiatives, and particularly thank the member for Fisher for bringing this motion to this place. And I also acknowledge the very real need to continue to invest in public education to prevent international scams, cybercrimes and identity theft. One recent case of an identity takeover theft in my community involved a small businessman whose email system was infiltrated and monitored by a criminal for several months before $80,000 worth of fake invoices were sent to clients who deposited monies into the criminal's quite legitimate bank account in Australia. This crime has had a devastating impact on a small business and a regional community. Public education is important, but I know my electorate would like to see more done to track down and shut down international scam operators. Whilst I appreciate that passing laws that cannot be enforced by another country is a futile exercise, many of my constituents have told me they'd rather see the Australian Federal Police cooperating with other jurisdictions to raid scammers overseas instead of raiding Australian journalists. As stated before in this chamber, my electorate has the oldest median age across in South Australia, and it's actually the 6th oldest in the nation. The Victor Harbor and Goolwa region in particular is quite an elderly population with an average age of 58 years compared with the national average of just 37 years. Now, having an older demographic unfortunately comes with some consequences when it comes to cybersecurity because our older residents are more vulnerable. Having a landline makes you more available to opportunistic phone scammers who go fishing for vulnerable victims. Thanks to technology, scammers are able to impersonate or even hijack legitimate Australian landline numbers to trick people into believing that they are from the Australian Tax Office or some other legitimate Australian agency. And the most recent scam called Blitz in my community is the fake NBN technician. Criminals are calling landlines and telling unsuspecting residents that the NBN rollout is finished and that their landline will be disconnected immediately if they do not hand over control of their computer remotely, or if there is no computer, if they don't deposit a sizable sum of money into a bank account. Recently, my office was contacted by a couple in their 80s who lost more than $5,000 of their life savings when they gave remote access to their computer to an NBN scammer. And it is easy to do, Mr Deputy Speaker. They went to their bank and they were told that because they had allowed access to the computer, they had given consent and they could not get their money back. There is a legal argument that this was consent by fraud, but this couple isn't about to spend several $1,000s that they don't have on a lawyer to try and get back $5,000. Unfortunately, this couple's case is not isolated. Last year, ScamWatch received 83,247 reports of scams with a loss of more than $30 million, in which the reporter was contacted using a telecommunication network. Of these reports, 16%, nearly 14,000, were made by people aged over 65 years. Collectively, they lost $7.7 million. ScamWatch says reports do not indicate any specific targeting of a particular age group, but instead suggest scammers attempt to make contact with as many potential victims as possible via a range of communication mediums. Across all communication mediums, the age group that lost the most amount of money, a total of $24 million, were those aged 55 to 64 years. And it would appear that the age groups with the least amount to lose and those who with the least experience with modern technology are those most at risk. There is also a little black book of scams that I share with my community, and we share them at our country shows, at all of our community events. Can I say to all members in this chamber, please have these available. Your office will be inundated with requests for them when you have them, and it's about education. And I would like to call on the government to run a paid advertising campaign in mainstream media so that people know what scams are, and particularly as it's tax time. Technology is rapidly changing. We need to support people with these changes, but we also need to send a message to international criminals that they cannot target our most vulnerable with impunity. Thank you.